All right, here we go. So, hey, folks, this is Jerry A. Thompson, and welcome to this episode of the Pivot Play podcast. I'm here this evening, pretty darn late in the evening, with my very good friend and the owner of Brown Sugar Catering, Dana Moore in Wilmington, Delaware. What's up, Dana?
Hey, Tony.
Right. And I really would like people to think that we just started this. We've been trying to get this set up for a minute. And a lot of pressure on you, by the way. You're my first female guest on the podcast,
Oh,
so
wow.
you
Ladies
you
first.
you you represent an entire gender,
Okay.
and whether or not we ever have another woman on this show. No, I'm just kidding.
So if I mess this up, it's
It's
my
over,
so
over. Nope,
okay.
it's done. It's done.
No pressure.
Nope, dude, fest from here on out. Anyway, so a few, a few things I want to get into. It is so late. So I think this is probably what our fourth, fifth episode of the podcast. So it's so far so good. A lot of decent responses. So the idea primarily is as we talk about these different subjects and so many different things we could talk about is to make sure that there's some breadcrumbs. Like what can people take away from these conversations? So with you, you have your own business, right? Along with working a full time gig, right? Brown Sugar Catering.
Yes, sir.
So just talk to the audience about kind of how all this got started and where the idea come from.
Brown sugar started basically out of a need. I found myself unemployed and then eventually underemployed with a child, single mother, and had to do what I had to do. So this was a way of supplementing to make the ends meet. And it started off, just real casual. Nothing,
Hmm.
wasn't like I was, and I wasn't official. I don't think I became. And when I say official, I mean business license, insurance, and all that. I didn't have my credentials.
Okay, so you started a side hustle
Right, right,
and
right,
then
right.
became a formal. So let me think about how far this goes. So is this not Miles? This is Asaya.
This is Asaya.
Okay, who just graduated from high school.
Yes,
So
yes.
you've been at this for
Oh
man,
yeah, yeah.
and this is why I can't
So,
interview this is why I can't interview friends of mine because it just makes me feel old when we think about how long some of this stuff has been going. Okay, so anyway, so yeah, so it's been a minute that you've been
yeah.
at this, and I'll tell you two things I remember, and you can take over from there. So I remember New Year's brunches at
Hmm.
your mom's house. Is that what they were called then? Were they after the service or the
Yeah, they
next?
were
I don't know what they were.
after service on New Year's Eve.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
3 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right. And then I remember Brown Sugar was started in an upstairs, like a second floor, really small apartment. So talk about the humble beginnings and
Oh yeah,
how you got going.
upstairs, 2 bedroom duplex apartment. Um, it was what it was, um, and now it has kind of morphed into, we're no longer in that 2 bedroom apartment. Praise
Mm-hmm.
the Lord. We are in a 4 bedroom house, um, which I own.
Mm-hmm. Good for you.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's definitely been those were the humble beginnings, and it has grown tremendously. It's um, gone from small events. I've done weddings. I've done them all. The
Okay.
big events. I've done church conferences. I've done things for celebrities. Sarah Jakes, what's her Roberts. I did something for Tank, the R&B artist. Um, it's been a ride. It's been
So
a ride.
let's go back then because there's a lot in that. So you said it was started out of necessity, right?
Hmm.
And so I don't know that really tells a story because there's a lot of people that have necessities, and right now we're arguing about what's going to be in the next stimulus check and
Hmm.
unemployment. What took you from really looking for a handout that's saying, I'm going to take control of this. I'm going to step into this with something that I know how to do.
Hmm.
Where did that come from? Because that's, to me, that's the first pivot, right? Because a lot of people
It
sit, complain, cry, worry.
Well, first it was a need, and then it became. I realized it was my therapy. It was my passion. It was my love. I often say when my clients, give me feedback on, their event and their food, I often say they say, well, what'd you put in that? I was like, I don't consider myself the best cook, but what I do is I cook. What sets me apart is I cook with love because I love to do it. It's when I say it's my therapy, I am literally in the kitchen. I'm working out life. I'm working out my, problems. I'm working out, issues. All sorts of things are going through my mind as I'm preparing for an event, and because I love to do it, it's my alone time. I don't often get a lot of help because that's my. I guess you call it my self care of
Okay.
sorts. My self care.
So take me to first customer, first gig, first meal, first, just let's talk about the first.
And that's hard to say because I think, like I said, I started out it's very casual with it, and then I became legit. When I say legit, the credentials, the serve safe certification, the business license, the insurance, all those sorts of things became. So let me think. My first customer client. That's so hard. Now you're making me think, man. I would probably say it was probably a
Okay.
wedding
You got
and
a wedding as your first gig? Your first, like,
I believe so, yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
I believe that was as far as my first major gig, big
Okay.
gig.
So
Was
with the first gig being a wedding, right? So a wedding is a big event, right? Typically it's going to have some audience from 50 to 200 or something. I don't know how many people were there, but for somebody this is part of like their life dream, right? So you're
right.
now, and I know this as a musician having played for a lot of weddings. No, you are, so I know what it's like to be part of the soundtrack to someone's life, right? And now, you taking on a wedding. So were you nervous? Were you
Absolutely, absolutely.
excited? Okay.
Because I have learned, and I will say this: I'm not a fan of weddings. Okay, let's be clear. So if I'm not called to do somebody's wedding, my feelings aren't hurt because brides are creatures. But that's a no, whole other story. Everybody wants perfection. I was absolutely nervous. The wedding was a success. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of moving parts. I find for me when I have the bigger events, I don't sleep well leading up to it because
Hmm.
I'm constantly dotting my I's. I think I probably sleep with the list in my head, checking this, checking that, making sure that everything is right, and I don't sleep restfully. I probably
Oh,
close.
wow.
But so yeah, I think that was one of the first major ones was probably that wedding.
Okay,
And
so the wedding was success. Now I want to just, so tell me how you felt when it was over, when you could define it as a success.
absolute relief because they were satisfied. Now I've had some snafu moments. It hasn't always been a cakewalk. I've had some moments where I'm like, I could have did something better, or I probably took on more than I could handle at that time.
Okay.
And in retrospect, you can look back and own that.
Okay. But and then there's other times where there's a circumstance that can be thrust on you.
Absolutely,
Someone hires you to do a gig, and is that the right? Can I say gig?
yeah.
What do you call
Yeah,
them? Is
I
it
call
just
them
a gig?
gigs,
Okay.
events. Yeah,
Okay. So someone, an event. We'll elevate our conversation, right? It was a gig when it was your side hustle. Now it's your business. It's an event, right? So someone hires you to do this event, and there's 35 people. So you prepare for 35 people, but then they bring their aunts, their aunties, their cousins,
right.
my boyfriend, girlfriend, cousin. 50 people now show up. You don't have food for 15 people. Has
That
this
has
happened?
Yes, that has happened to me.
Okay.
That happened a couple years ago. It was an event where it was, I don't want to say the organization, but it was a very astute um, African American organization, national.
Say the name. No, I'm just kidding. Don't say it. Not to say it.
And it was they had a program where they mentored grandparents who took care of their grandchildren.
Okay.
So they had a closing out dinner. I was hired to do the dinner. I think it was like they told me it's 75 people.
Okay.
Now, being the African American people that we can be, and we they counted for the people that were in the program.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't factor in that these people may have four or five other people living in their home.
Right.
So what was 75 people turned into like 150 very
Stop
quick.
it.
No, I'm serious.
So 150. If I have my math, I'm strictly public schools. That's double, right? So
Yeah.
were you stitching pieces of chicken? Like how did this?
Well,
How'd
what
you
we
get through
did,
that?
one thing I do, I never cook. I don't cook for, if it's 75, I'm going to round up because I know us. Just for room for measure, just for error. But I didn't have $150, 150, you know, person food for 150 people at that time.
Right.
So it was a quick store run, and it was a quick. Let's boil some rice because
Mm-hmm.
what rice stretches. Let's get these
Okay.
canned green beans. I mean, we made it live,
Okay.
Now, but it didn't match what everybody else was eating, but you know,
Okay. So
and
I
the,
so I have to ask because I'm all about the numbers. So the gig, I'm sorry, the event is for 75 people. There's well over 100, we call it 150, and you have to now scramble. So essentially, the scrambling increases your cost, right, to
absolutely,
deliver the service. Did they pay you for that?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I wouldn't
Mm,
have went out and purchased that extra food, if it wasn't, I had to, sub buy the chicken from some local chicken
I understand. I
and
understand.
had the rice at home, had the extra green beans at home. So I
Ah,
mean, it was a slight delay, and
right.
it worked itself out. But yes, we had a nice conversation as I'm counting it. I'm like, yo, this is not gonna work. Like,
Right.
so I've
Right.
had those moments.
Well, there's also if you get in a pinch, there's this pizza company that used to have a slogan they delivered on in 30 minutes. We won't say their name, but we'll call them Fabio's delivers. So you could
Right, right, right. We
that's
made
always an option.
exactly.
So you've had to do that on the fly. So now that you've been doing this for wow, almost 20 years now, right? And like I said, I remember the small apartment. I know your home now, which gives you really space, right? You have more space to store, you have more space to cook. But again, it wasn't always like that. You had to juggle and make things happen to get things out the door, right?
Hmm.
Um, so now you've been in this for a while. What would you say are some of the biggest lessons learned? Because I mean, there's a lot of people that cook,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
A lot
Hmm.
of people that believe that they're good cooks. A lot of people believe that they could run this type of business. But when you take something that everyone does on a regular basis, which is eat, right? And now you're going to put a name behind it, a price behind it. You've now raised the bar.
Hmm.
Um, and so doing this, you've learned some things. So what
Yeah.
would you say are the most valuable lessons that you've learned doing this business?
From the gate, um, know your worth and do not apologize for it. I still have old proposals from years ago, and I like want to just slap myself and throw up in my mouth at how low bar. It was just like what? And
Right,
I know what it was at that time. It was you were trying to get yourself out there, so you wanted that gig, so you just kind of just you know sh- you know shortchange yourself, low
hmm
bid just to get yourself out there.
right,
But now you have credentials. You've proven yourself.
right.
And I actually, mentor a few, you know, up and people that work with me. Um,
Hmm.
One young lady by the name is Jasmine Johnson. She has a catering company by Vibe Catering.
Okay.
Jasmine's young, and when I say young, she's 22.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Phenomenal cook, phenomenal cook.
Hmm.
And so she will often call me, Dana, what do you think about, is this too much? No, no, ma'am, because I want you to learn what I didn't know. No one told me that. No one told me.
Right.
Um, you and she's credentialed. She has, she's got her stuff.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest lessons. Do not shortchange yourself, especially now. I mean, anybody that's shopping goes to the grocery store knows that food is expensive now.
Right. And getting more expensive too.
Exactly. By the
Right. As supply gets challenged, food is more
exactly,
expensive.
exactly. So and you know, you just gotta you gotta you have definitely have to don't shortchange
Right.
yourself at
So I'm certain that you have then rejected, you know, opportunities just based on the fact that someone wanted to lowball you on the
all.
price,
Okay.
or
Yes.
get you to go outside, sort of, um, where you're comfortable and how you deliver your services, and maybe try to redefine you in some ways.
Yeah.
How, and I know you've done it, right?
Oh
You've
yeah,
worked
I've
for
done it, and I've done it, not so the professional way, where I just kind of go radio silent. That's your answer. And then I also have done it where I've done it professionally, where I, respond and say, this is not going to work for me. You know,
right.
Sorry.
So let's quickly talk about advertising, right? So you and I were having a conversation a couple weeks ago, and I think we actually, these conversations evolve. And if I remember correctly, we actually started to talk about like customer appreciation. I mean, you have people that have been loyal to you in your business, and Jay Abraham, who is really well-known marketing genius, says the objective of a business is to acquire and keep a customer,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And so I don't know how much of that conversation that you remember in terms of where the opportunities are to, but how do you recognize people who've been loyal to you in your business?
What I've been doing as of late is just basically, um, you know, since we've had this COVID situation, I've been doing
Hmm.
the home, and you kind of just throw a little love there.
Is that your
You
house phone?
may lower it. Yes, it is. I'm trying to ignore it, and you just brought it to the
We
light.
can't. No, we can't. It's happening. It's a real thing.
But I was
I
trying
want
to
to know who. I
have
want to know who's calling your house at this hour.
my
That's
mother,
what I need to.
my mother, and
Is
then
your mother?
she'll call the house. Then she'll call my cell phone in a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, I love your mother, so I'm not going to say anything about her. I love her. So,
gotta love her. Gotta love her. But
so anyway, so we were talking about how you recognize your loyal customers.
and just kind of like, I haven't put an actual program into place, but there are clients that have been loyal and have been very consistent with me and very supportive. So I just throw my way of love is, I'll may throw something in extra, or don't worry about that, or that's how I do. And I have some
Yeah.
diehards. I really have some diehards. I really
Hmm.
So that's my way of doing that. And I do plan on getting something more formalized, um, to kind of continue with that whole mind, that marketing concept of that we talked about.
Right. So one of the other things in your line of work, as well as, I mean, really many lines of work, right, is the power of referrals.
Mm.
How have what has been the power of referrals in your business?
It's very powerful. In fact, I actually about 2 weeks ago, I had gifted my aunt for her 70th birthday, which was last year, a four-course meal um, for four people, and that was something that she redeemed this year on her birthday. Um,
Hmm.
and through the power of social media, because I created an experience. It just wasn't dinner. I came and I set up the house and I had the music playing and
Hmm.
jazz, and it was a whole ambiance because I believe that eating should not just be eating to to live or sustain you, but sometimes you can have these experiences and you walk away. That was great. I want to do that again. So I created a
Hmm.
whole experience. Like I said, a 4 course meal for her and her
Okay.
husband and two other guests, and so she's so excited and she put it on social media, and literally 2 days later I get a call. Oh, my husband's birthday is coming up, and this is somebody I know.
Right.
uh, Husband's birthday's coming up. I need a dinner party. Blah blah blah. Can you come and do it? Same thing.
Right.
And I've noticed since then that in these COVID streets, people aren't all the way comfortable going out to restaurants, even though the restaurants here in Delaware are open to 60% capacity. They're not going out like that.
Right.
So I'm able to come in, set it up. The ambiance is there, the presentation's there, the food is
Right.
there, and they're happy. So I've literally done three of those type of deals in 2 weeks.
Right. So here's what I want to say, and maybe not necessarily directly to you, but also to our audience. On first of all, referrals is the cheapest. It's the cheapest. Oh my word! I'm telling you, public schools just have
Expensive,
ruined me. It's it's strictly public schools, folks. But
expensive.
is the least expensive marketing that
Mhm.
you can do, right? And it really is in response to creating a great experience for someone. I'll give you an example. I bought a car uh, about 3 years ago. I had a Cadillac SUV for a while, and I'm a tech dude, so I'm like, yeah, let me check out this Carvana situation, see what that's all about. Because I don't know where I was in Texas or Georgia. I don't know where I was, but I went by one of their big giant vending machines where you go and you get a coin and it brings the car down and all that.
Right,
And
right.
I bought one, and like I what I appreciated about what they did was the way they allowed me to view the vehicle online, right? Complete outside, complete inside. If there was a blemish, they put a circle there, you could look at it. So other than not knowing how the vehicle would specifically run, I got to see everything about the vehicle, so I'm cool with that.
Right.
And then they delivered that car to my house on a flatbed, right? And all I had to do was sign some papers, and I took it for a test drive. If I decided right then I didn't want it, they're going to put it back on the truck and take it away. When I decided I'm keeping the vehicle, sign a few papers, it's already in my driveway, gives me the keys, he rolls off. It was a wonderful buying experience. I was able to do the research, I was getting a great price. So again, I had a great experience. I'm going to tell people about that. Now they know I'm going to do that. So they had already given me a book of cards or vouchers or coupons or whatever, and of course, what am I doing? I'm passing these things out. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't work for these people. But I had such a great experience that I want other people to have a great experience. This is
Mhm.
how you can have a great experience. Carvana, they have really made this a really simple thing. So I think very much you're doing the same thing. And I'm saying all that to say the referrals are powerful. If you get a referral, this is what the research says, is that a referral will tend to buy more, they'll buy at greater frequency, and they'll buy with less resistance.
Mhm.
So the time it takes to close a sale is decreased dramatically because they've already made the decision that they're going to do business with you. You're really not selling. You're just trying to figure out what you're going to deliver.
Right, right, right.
So again, maybe not necessarily you because you're leveraging that today, but for some other people who are listening, referrals are wonderful, which is sometimes when you're starting, maybe there's some things that you have to give away for free so you can create an experience for somebody. So what, real quick, because we have to pivot to something else before we run out of time. Um, you do tastings?
I do, I do,
Really?
and I charge for my tastings. Yes,
What?
yes, I do.
Tell me about that.
I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. Tastings are typically done for weddings or the larger events, and those are clients that may or may not know how you cook, what your style is, and I recently started charging in the last maybe year and a half, 2 years. And the reason why is because I have a tasting. I had this particular tasting. It was for a wedding, and cook this food, and they were strangers. And I have my tastings in my home.
Mhm.
You got to be mindful who you allow cross your threshold. I'm just saying.
Mhm.
And so we had a tasting. It went well from my point of view. It went well. It seemed like it was going well. And then they were very transparent. We're looking at other people as well. No problem. That's what you're supposed to do. I get that.
Mhm.
So we'll call you on Wednesday. Wednesday comes, they don't call. Thursday comes. I said, let me reach out. Let me just have some initiative. Totally ghosted me.
Mhm.
What really irritated me was the fact that I had these people in my home, total strangers. I fed them.
Right.
I gave them at least an hour and a half of my time. My time is valuable.
Mhm.
So, and you left with leftovers. No. So I basically fed strangers lunch with, I'm
Right.
sorry, with no kickback. And I mean,
Right.
I probably would have taken it better if you had called and said, okay, we're going with so and so. That would have been fine. Business is business. I get it. But I think the ghosting part
Mhm.
irritated me. I'm like, and then I value my time. My time is non refundable. I have
Right.
2 children. So, and yeah, so now I charge for tasting because you got to have skin in the game.
Right. So let's jump to this before we run out of time because this is really important. So life is what it is. You're doing what you do. This normal sort of cycle to your business, and then the pandemic hits,
Mm.
right? And everything shuts down. And what a lot of people have seen is, their livelihoods dramatically impacted. I believe you've been fortunate to remain, in your full time employment,
Of course.
but in terms of brown sugar, in the same way that, the barbers and, you know, housekeepers, landscape, like all sorts of folks who, largely did a lot of things, whether it's their full time or their part time thing, solved those sources of income, halted for the most part. So what has been your experience with brown sugar during the pandemic, and what have you done to pivot to keep the name out there, to keep your customers? Because this is the other thing I'm gonna say this. I'm convinced that some people will realize that there were services and things that they did and they've not done them now for long enough that they've broken the habit of doing them. And they're
Mhm.
like, I don't know if I need to do that. So
Right.
tell me what you've done and how you've what was your pivot during the pandemic?
Well, when the shutdown hit my state, like I said, I'm in Delaware. I literally had events that weekend, and I had literally left the restaurant depot for an event 2 days later.
Mhm.
Was postponed, canceled, postponed, um,
Mhm.
and so I was able to. I had things that were perishable things, so I was able to make it work. And then there was also I had deposits for events, um, you know, in the future. Technically and contractually, I did not have to give that money back,
You gave the
but
money back?
I did. I did. I did.
I'm not even gonna ask any more questions about that. I'm
I
just gonna
mean,
let that go.
I did.
No, I
I
believe you. You did the honorable thing,
I just
right? You did the
I
honorable thing.
yeah. I mean, integrity. Integrity. And then at that time we just thought it was going to be a kick it down the road type of thing, but
Mhm.
here we are 4 months later, like, okay, damn, when it, and it's fine. So then, how I kind of pivoted as time went on, of course, everybody was cooking hunt home because they only will go do these grocery store runs. And then it got to a point where I think maybe 6 weeks in, I recognized that people were tired of eating their own food.
Right.
And that's when I did my pivot and I prospered. So what I did is it started in May, and it was
Mhm.
called I Cook for You. And I did pre-orders. I put it
Wait
on
a minute. Let me go back. You said, "May I cook for you?" Is that the name of the program?
a little play on the month of May.
Oh, okay. Got you. Got you. May I cook? Okay, got it.
And it was a play on words, and it was on Sunday.
Mhm.
Pre-orders, you had to text me, curbside, of course, curbside pickup, and you secured it with your Cash App to me. And when I say it far exceeded what I typically would do at the cafe is something that my church has, and I've been a part of that for the last 5 years. It exceeded that.
Hmm.
And at first I thought it was okay because people were tired of eating their own food. So then we did it again 2 weeks later, and it was like, whoa, y'all really, oh, y'all like me like that, And then I did another pivot, and I did a brunch.
Hmm.
And brunch, in fact, I'm doing the brunch this weekend. You want to come and get your
Okay.
food? You got a nice car. You can drive here and get here. I'll give you your food if you drive here. Okay.
I was thinking about driving that way. Don't tempt me.
Okay. Well, you know what?
It's only 900 miles, so
I wouldn't be surprised if you showed up. I'm just saying.
that's how I do. You know how I do.
You do like that. But anyway, um, and so it just really was something that I did not expect. And it far exceeded, what I could have even imagined. And in fact, I just literally put the flyer out on my social media this afternoon, and 10 minutes later, someone who missed it, because I put a deadline on it. If you don't order it by Friday 3 p.m., you can't call me. Now I'm a softie, you know that. I will take some. I'm like, all right, I'll go ahead and do it. I anticipate for it, but I don't like to put it out there like that because I don't want these Negroes calling me Saturday trying to place an order. No, no, no. So I literally got a call from some. I heard my Cash App go off. I'm like, well, who is this? And I'm looking. I'm like, oh. So I text her, and she was just like, yeah, 'cause I missed the last one. I'm not missing it again. So that shows me that they want it and it's working.
Right.
So
'Cause, I mean,
that's my
because the
Sunday.
alternative is you could have shut it down,
Exactly.
give back these deposits, which
Mhm.
you did the right thing. I'm just gonna keep saying that. Give back these deposits and just sit on your hands and wait it out, right? But instead, again, you pivoted and then profited. You did
Yeah.
something great for your clientele, right? Because
It,
then I don't know if you saw my Facebook page at the beginning of the pandemic. We went shopping. If you look on my Facebook page, I'm like Chef Boyardee. I'm smoking
it,
briskets. I'm cooking all these meals. I do my
it got old.
occasional and then it's like by week two, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It,
we're
it,
not, we
it,
we we're not, I'm not doing that. And
it,
then the language,
like seriously, you know what I mean? This has been really, not to get deep and all, but it was very, it's so much information out there. It was weighty.
right,
Then you got, George Floyd, and it's like, so I felt like I needed to do it for my own sanity. Because like I said earlier, it's my therapy. It's my, working it out.
right. I
I don't
feel
know.
you.
Was that deep?
Um, I got it.
Got it. Okay.
No, I mean, what I'll say is, and I think I've experienced this periodically during this time is, um, I don't want to use the word depression, but yeah, you can just get a case of the, I don't feel like it's,
Yeah, it was weighty.
and so that you have to motivate yourself to do something to keep yourself moving, keep yourself active, during periods like this. I just think it's so necessary. So much has changed in terms of how we interact with one another, and again, what we've known to be normal. I mean, you had a child who was expecting to walk across the stage, in a graduation. That didn't happen that way, right?
Right.
And so just so many things are different, and we're having to adjust. We're having to pivot. So last thing I'll ask. Now, you mentioned one thing that's really important about knowing your worth. But if someone says, I think I can cook, I can do that. So aside from knowing their worth, what is the next most valuable piece of advice that you would offer to someone that says, I'm going to pivot, I got a whole stack of my grandmama and my mama's recipes, and people love this food. I only cook it occasionally, but I can turn this into something. What's your advice to them?
You got to want to do it. You have to recognize that it's not as easy as it looks. It's not as easy as it looks. It's a lot of time management. It's and everybody can't cook in bulk.
Hmm.
A lot of people can't cook in bulk. Some people are, they're used to cooking for the four people that live in their house or whatever, and it's a process. And you gotta love it. You gotta have some love in it because
Right.
the food tastes like it reflects in the food. Point blank. Period. In the end. Um, and Also seek out a mentor.
Hmm.
Seek out a mentor, and I've fortunate to have had people that mentored me in different areas. Like I learned through my friend James Fawcett. He's gone on. Jimmy Fawcett. He died some years ago, but he taught me how to cook in bulk.
Hmm.
And then my aunt and my uncle, they taught me the business side of it.
Right.
Um,
Well, you actually spent some time working in their restaurant.
yeah, I did.
You did
I did.
part time there. I remember that. Yeah.
Yep. So I learned that the business side of it.
So do you think it's then important? I mean, somebody can jump in, but like I said, sometimes we have experiences along the way that are helping to prepare us and shape us for an opportunity. Like I'm imagining that when you were working part time in their restaurant, that brown sugar had in some configuration had already begun, but it still gave you the opportunity. Yeah, I did it. I think so.
Maybe,
Maybe, maybe.
maybe, but not. You know.
But nonetheless, you were able to observe, participate, not to mention, somebody you can talk to about, hey, how do you do this? How did you do that? But and I think that what I'm getting to is sometimes people want to launch out and they never think about sort of an apprenticeship. Like, let me spend some time with someone that does this. Maybe I can volunteer, maybe I can work for them, maybe I can take them out and buy them a few lunches and just get them to talk to me about what they do. But I think you do need some experience because there you got to see, how they buy, how they cook, how they interact with their customers. Like I remember that. You got
Yeah.
a lot out of that that
Yeah.
probably helped you in ways you maybe didn't even realize when you started.
Definitely. Definitely. I think that that's necessary. That's it. How can I say this nicely? That's it for
Don't you,
people.
what? But you don't have to be
The
nice. Just
people
pivot.
are willing. I don't think a lot of people look at sometimes in this line of industry it can be competitive, low key competitive. You know what I mean? But
And
my
you're in a small market.
yes, small
Okay.
small small town, small even smaller state. But I often say there's enough money out there for everybody to eat. There really is. And I may not be the caterer for so and so and vice versa. You know what I mean? But there's always somebody. I mean, I have people, friends that that are I may, if I'm not able to do an event, I may, hey, why don't you call so and so? They may be able to help you with this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Small network, but
Yeah, and I think too with that, I mean, this is clearly not my line of work, but I mean, minimally, most people eat 3 meals a day, right?
right.
So you can try to elbow somebody else out of the marketplace, or you can create your own niche. Like, okay, people eat become the breakfast caterer, right?
Uh-huh.
Some people gonna have a late night. Maybe you do great desserts. You like, and maybe you run your thing really from like 7 p.m. to midnight. Like, we'll deliver your these series of desserts. But there's opportunity. People just have to be creative and not so consumed or captivated with what someone else is doing, and then taking on that scarcity mentality that
Mm,
there's not enough. Like, if you have it, that means I can't get it.
right.
Or even maybe even figure out ways how in ways that you can partner with someone.
That's
But I think again, the mentorship helps with that,
mhm.
talking to other people, building relationships, like the fact that you have a willingness to mentor, someone who's young and just starting out, and based on what you're saying is clearly talented. says a lot about who you are as a person, and that you are not stuck into the scarcity mentality that, well,
Yeah.
I ain't gonna help her because she could steal
Nope.
she's still
Yeah.
my business. So
Nope.
it, anywho, all right, so we're gonna sign off because our conversations can go on for a minute, but I appreciate you doing this at this late hour. Please
Golly.
call please call your mama back. So so tell Sandy I said hello.
Her birthday's
I
tomorrow.
love her. Huh?
Her birthday's tomorrow.
Is it really?
70 years old.
Stop it. Still young. She's still young. Tell her I
Yeah.
said she too young for me. I can't. I'm just
What? Whatever. Yeah.
anyway, so let's catch up. Hopefully you have a very successful event this weekend. I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
And then we'll, jump on that customer appreciation thing. I just want to see how it
I
how
am.
it goes how it goes down. Um, and then we'll talk again about how to put a real strategy behind it so you have some expectation of what you will get back from doing it.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. Anyway, appreciate you, love you. It is late for us. So we'll get this chopped up and get it out soon. All right.
All right.
Peace out, lady.
So.
Bye.